You just did it. The last time you filled up your tank, the second click after the pump shut off automatically. That one move started a damage process inside your car that won't show up for months. And when it does, it's a $900 repair bill that no mechanic is going to trace back to your gas station habit. I've been under enough cars to know exactly what that habit does to the system behind your fuel tank. And I can tell you, it's one of the most consistent causes of check engine lights I see in modern vehicles. Not the most dramatic, not the loudest, but the most avoidable, every single time. Here's what nobody tells you at the pump. Your car was specifically engineered to stop when it stops. That automatic shutoff isn't just a convenience feature. It's the last line of defense for a system that most drivers don't even know exists, and that costs nearly $1,000 to fix when it's been pushed past its limit one too many times. That system is called the EVAP, Evaporative Emission Control. And before you tune out because that sounds like an emissions thing, listen, because this is actually a money thing. Your fuel tank isn't sealed tight. It breathes. As the fuel inside heats up during the day, it produces vapor, raw gasoline vapor. If that vapor went straight into the atmosphere, you'd have fumes coming out of every parked car on every street in America. So instead, your car routes that vapor through a rubber hose into a canister packed with activated charcoal. The charcoal absorbs the vapor, holds it. Then, when you start driving, the engine opens a valve called the purge valve and pulls that stored vapor into the intake to burn it off cleanly. That's the loop. Vapor goes in, gets stored, gets burned. Simple, effective, and completely dependent on the canister only ever seeing vapor, not liquid fuel. When you click the trigger a second time after the pump shuts off, you're not just adding a little extra gas. You're overriding a pressure sensor built into the filler neck specifically to stop the flow when the liquid level gets too close to the vent tube. That vent tube connects directly to the canister, and when liquid fuel makes it into that tube, even a small amount, it soaks into the activated charcoal. Charcoal saturated with liquid can't store vapor anymore. It's full, it's compromised, and now every time your engine tries to purge that system, it's pulling liquid residue through a valve that was only designed to handle gas. That valve sticks, gets gummed up, eventually fails. Most guys don't notice anything for months. The check engine light doesn't come on the next day. It comes on when the ECU finally runs a self-test, usually overnight, when the car's been sitting and detects that the pressure in the EVAP system isn't holding the way it should. By then, the damage is done. Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from and whether you've ever had a check engine light with a code you couldn't figure out. I'd be willing to bet more than a few of you have P0440, P0446, or P0455 sitting in your history right now. Those are all EVAP codes, and I'll get to what each one means and which one is the most expensive before we're done here. One more thing before we go deeper, there's a specific type of car where this mistake is even worse, where the damage happens faster and costs significantly more. I'm going to tell you exactly which ones to watch out for, and it's probably not what you'd expect. If you're the kind of driver who handles his own car and doesn't wait for a light to tell him something's wrong, subscribe to CarLab. We put out this kind of information every week, the stuff the service department charges you $140 just to diagnose. Let me start with the car types, because this matters more than most people realize. On vehicles made before roughly 2004, the EVAP system is simpler. The canister is bigger, the vent paths are more forgiving, and the system tolerates some abuse before it throws a code. You can get away with the second click more often. Not always, but more often. Modern vehicles are a different animal entirely. From about 2008 onward, manufacturers moved to what's called an enhanced EVAP system. Tighter tolerances, smaller canisters in some designs, more sensors monitoring pressure continuously, not just during specific test cycles. These systems are engineered to be efficient, which also means they're engineered with zero margin for liquid contamination. Even a tablespoon of raw fuel in the wrong place is enough to saturate a canister and start the clock on a failed purge valve. Now add a turbocharged engine to that picture. Turbo engines run a more aggressive purge cycle because the intake manifold vacuum fluctuates more dramatically. The purge valve opens and closes faster, more often, under more pressure. If the canister is compromised, that contamination gets pulled through the valve at higher velocity, more frequently. What takes 14 months to show up in a naturally aspirated engine can show up in 6 months on a turbo, sometimes less. Crossover SUVs with small turbos, the 1.5 and 2.0-liter engines you see in Chevy Equinox, Ford Escape, Honda CR-V, those are the ones I see most often with EVAP failures, traced back to overfilling. Not because the owners are careless, because those engines are everywhere, and the system in those cars is particularly unforgiving. Now let me tell you about a specific situation I dealt with last year. 2018 Honda Accord 2.0-liter turbo. Owner brings it in with a check engine light, P0446. That's a code for a blocked or restricted vent control valve. Car ran perfectly. No rough idle, no hesitation, no fuel smell. The light was the only symptom. Ran the diagnostic. Smoke test on the EVAP system. Canister was saturated. Purge valve had sticky residue on the seat. Fuel varnish from liquid that had no business being in that line. I asked him 2 questions. First, does he always top off the tank after the pump clicks off? He said yes, always rounds up to a clean number. Second, how long has he been doing that? He thought about it. Said probably since he bought the car. The repair was $140 for the diagnostic, $290 for a new purge valve, $420 for the canister, and about 2 hours of labor. Total came out to just over $900, and the part that stuck with him, he'd been doing this every single fill-up for 3 years, hundreds of times. The pump was fighting him the whole time, and he thought it was just the pump being slow. Here's the thing about EVAP codes that most people get wrong. They assume a check engine light means something's actively broken. A crack, a leak, a part that snapped. EVAP failures are different. The system failed its own internal pressure test. The part didn't break. It degraded, slowly, over many fill-ups, until it couldn't hold pressure anymore. That distinction matters because it also means you won't feel it in the car. No vibration, no stall, no hesitation. The car drives completely normally until the ECU flags the test. Some drivers go months between test cycles, especially if they do a lot of short trips that prevent the car from running through its full EVAP monitor sequence. Plenty of guys are driving right now with a canister that's already compromised and they'll never know until the light comes on. P0440 is the general code, EVAP system malfunction. P0446 is the vent control circuit. P0455 is the one that gets expensive fast, that's a large leak detected. When the system sees P0455, it means pressure is dropping quickly, and that usually means something beyond the canister. Purge valve stuck open, vent valve failed, or a cracked vapor line. Any one of those is a repair job, not a cleaning job. I said at the top there's something about this that's even worse than the repair bill. Something most drivers don't consider until it's too late. We'll get there in a minute, and if you've got a car you're thinking about selling in the next couple of years, you especially need to hear it. Here's what I promised you. The part that's worse than the repair bill. Most states in this country require emissions testing, and the EVAP monitor is one of the systems the testing equipment checks during an OBD2 inspection. Not the tailpipe, not a visual check. The scanner reads whether your monitors have passed, and if the EVAP monitor is flagged as incomplete or failed, the car fails the inspection. Full stop. What that means in practice: you can bring a car in with a clean exhaust, a fresh oil change, brand new tires, no warning lights on the dash, and fail the state inspection because the EVAP system didn't pass its own internal test cycle. The inspector doesn't care that the car drives fine. The monitor says fail, it fails. Now think about that from a seller's perspective. Guy I know, not a customer, just someone I know, had a 2021 Toyota Tacoma, kept it immaculate, never missed a service interval, noticed a faint fuel smell after filling up here and there, figured it was normal, ran fine, no light. When he went to register it and get the inspection done before listing it for sale, the EVAP monitor was incomplete. It hadn't finished its self-test because the canister was partially saturated and the system was running a longer diagnostic cycle in the background. The inspector flagged it. He had to get it diagnosed before he could get the sticker. The diagnosis alone was $140, ended up being the purge valve. Another $260 in parts and labor. He pushed the sale by 3 weeks, lost the buyer he had lined up, ended up selling for $800 less than his original asking price, just to close the deal before the month was out. All of that from a habit at the gas pump he'd had since he got his license. Here's the thing nobody tells you about the EVAP system. It's not dramatic. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't leave a puddle on the driveway or make a noise you can point to. It just quietly fails over time, and by the time it surfaces, whether that's a check engine light, a failed inspection, or a smell you've been ignoring for 6 months, the charcoal canister has been saturated for a long time already. The fix is one of the simplest behavioral changes in all of car ownership. When the pump clicks off, you're done. Put the cap on. Walk away. The tank is full enough. There is no advantage to rounding up to $60. There is no extra range you get from the extra 2 ounces of fuel. There's only risk to a system that was designed to last the life of the car if you let it do its job. I've seen guys spend $100 on an EVAP repair and swear they'll never do it again. I've also seen guys walk out of the shop, drive to the gas station across the street, and squeeze the trigger after the pump shuts off out of pure habit. 30 years of muscle memory is hard to undo, but now you know why it matters. And that's the whole point of Car Lab. If you're the kind of driver who'd rather know this stuff before it costs you money, before the light comes on, before the inspection, before the sale falls through, subscribe. We cover what dealerships skip, what service advisors don't explain, and what the manual buries in footnotes nobody reads. Old school, no nonsense, every week.